on rational expressions. So how do we find the least common denominator of rational expressions? That's what we're going to work through on this particular video. First off, to figure out the least common denominator of a rational expression, we need to go through and factor each denominator completely. List those factors, match factors when possible, bring down the different columns. So I'll show you how what this means in practice here. So in other words, what we're saying to figure out the common factors, if I've got 8 and then I've got 12, so 8 is 2 times 2 times 2, and 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. So what that means then is for my least common denominator, well, I've got these 2's that already have friends associated with them, so they're already taken into account. This 2 needs to be brought down because it's the least common denominator, meaning I've got to take each factor from each one of the numbers that I'm choosing. So then I'm going to have 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. So the least common denominator of 8 and 12 is going to be 24. That's my LCD. So this would be if I'm trying to add 5/8 and 7/12 together, then my common denominator is going to be 24. So if I were to go through and do this, remember, so 5 over 8, then I'm going to multiply to get my common denominator 3 times 3. And then that would give me 15 divided by 24. And then 7 divided by 12, I would multiply by 2 divided by 2 because that's the factor that's missing. And then that would give me 14 over 24. All right, so that would be how we come up with the common factors, in the stuff that we've done, way back when. But now we're going to start doing this with rational expressions that have variables in them. So in this case, then, we want to determine the least common denominator for these two expressions. So if I take x squared minus x minus 12, all right, so I need factors of 12 that differ by 1. So we know that's going to be x minus 4 and x plus 3 because this is telling me that they are opposite signs. This is telling me the larger one's negative. So now I've got x squared minus 16. That's a difference of 2 squares, so then that would be an x minus 4 and then x plus 4. So my least common denominator for these two, again, is going to be bringing down all the factors. So I've got an x minus 4, which is taken care of by both of these. Then the factor that the first one has that the second one doesn't has to be introduced, and that would be an x plus 3. And then lastly, the factor that the second one has that the first one doesn't is an x plus 4. So that's my least common denominator. And I don't need to multiply all this stuff out. Just leave them in factored form. All right, so next question then is, all right, so if that's the case, then what do each of these look like? How do I rewrite it with common denominators? All right, so 2 divided by x squared minus x minus 12. Okay, we know that that is rewritten as 2 divided by x minus 4, x plus 3. But remember, I needed to reintroduce my least common denominator was x minus 4, x plus 3, and then the x plus 4. So I've got to introduce an x plus 4 to both the numerator and denominator. So I have common denominators. So now I get in the numerator 2 times x plus 4 divided by x minus 4, x plus 3, x plus 4. Then I've got 1 divided by x squared minus 16. So now we remember that's going to be 1 divided by x plus 4, x minus 4. And I'm going to have to multiply that by the factor that we don't have. So what's the factor in this one that we don't have in this one? And that's the same thing we did here when we were looking at it. What's the factor that's here that I don't already have up here? So now on this one, I'm going to have to introduce the x plus 3 for both numerator and denominator. Now, we want to make sure that our denominators are exactly written the same. So x minus 4, x plus 3, x plus 4. And we already had a 1 there, and we're introducing the x plus 3. So now that they have common denominators, I could do whatever I'm asked to do with that. It might be that I have to add them or I have to subtract them, but now that I have the common denominators, I can move forward. Without common denominators, you can't add them, you can't subtract them. Multiply and divide, that's a completely different story. I don't need common denominators. Adding, subtracting, they must have common denominators. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. This was just going through and figuring out how to come up with the least common denominator for rational expressions. If this was helpful and useful, please go ahead and subscribe to the Charahoe Pre-Calculus YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your day.